Oh, I slept 12 hours last night. That's like probably one of the better sleeps I've had. These symptoms started a year ago, but it was really gradual. It was really a gradual thing. What happened was I thought I needed a new mattress because my flanks were hurting. As you can see, my rash has gotten slightly better. I don't know what I ate or what caused it to all begin, but I had these sores and they were in my eyes. I kept getting eye infections and sinusitis, but I just ignored it because Denver's really, really dry. So I kept calling Timmy and saying, well, I think we need a new mattress. My back is hurting. Which now I know could have been a huge symptom, but I have a really strong back. So I want to make this video while Tim was at the store because, you know, he's worried. I'm eating my sauerkraut. So I'm beginning a barrage of fermented foods, which is really, really good. Fermented foods is like cabbage Rejuvelac and wheatberry Rejuvelac and kraut and like kimchi and all those things are really good. And you can make them at home and they're really inexpensive. And it gives you a different strand of probiotic. And when you have to buy the 500 billion probiotic, it's really expensive. So when Tim first showed up, he was very shocked to see me in that condition. He had never seen me that sick. I could have had candida at that time, but that wasn't just the cause of it. That was like one of the symptoms. So by the time Tim got here, I was, he hadn't been home in 6 months. I mean, you talk about bad luck. And I was already under a lot of pressure between Kim having the baby and my son with his marriage. And I was under a lot of pressure, but I was still moving. I was slightly bummed out because it was winter, but it all kind of started there. Then one night, I'm a really heavy sleeper, and one night I woke up and it felt like I hadn't peed in like 10 years. Well, that was a horrific feeling, so I jump up and I peed and I thought, well, did I drink too much water before I went to bed? So that began. And then this rash, it was out to here, it was down in my mouth, inside, up my nose and in my eyes. And I couldn't fight off viruses. So when Tim came through in that 6-month period, he had the flu and he said, I'm not going to give this to you because I know you don't take antibiotics. So I went to the urgent care. Right after the female healing at the church, they did an all-women's healing. And I went through a tremendous healing with Jesus, and I knew that I was in a place of complete joy. And I was beginning, or actually ending, a huge forgiveness thing that I had. I had, after my son died, I aborted a child. And I knew that God wanted me to look at that, and so I grieved for about 4 days, and I didn't tell anyone. That was one thing. The other thing was forgiving my mother, my father. My father I've worked on for years, but with my mom I just ran into a wall, and I finally realized why. Right before Lisa died, she told me all these things about my family, which I knew were true, but because of my black sheep status, I was never believed. And even though I knew Jeff had molested me, and my parents didn't do anything, and when I talked to them, they didn't acknowledge it, I knew it happened because Carla. So I, over the years, have remembered tragic things that happened at the ranch, and nobody wanted to talk about it ever. But it had like literally destroyed me. I was deeply angry. I had this disconnected relationship with God after my sister died, my younger sister. And then when Lisa called me, she called to make amends. She called to set the record straight, to finally validate. And she also told me about more abuses that I didn't know about in my life. So, yeah. I mean, I thought I had a lot. And I was being treated for trauma, but it was like the obvious things you would talk about, and then the unobvious things you just figured one day maybe it would make sense. So Lisa basically dumped a lot of child abuse on me at one time. And she began to stir my memory, and I thank God for it, especially when I did the memorial. So that leads you up to now, as far as my spiritual well-being. So when I went back and I forgave Christ, I always loved the Lord. Always. I was a very deep Christian, and my husband had beat me up, and I was in the Christian church, and they kept telling me to go back, so I had unforgiveness there. I mean, it was just everywhere in my life. No matter what I did, my life was out of control. And scary. And just fucking out of control. I went through small drug abuses, but mostly I had these unexplained depressions. I didn't know why. Like, why am I depressed? So I just kept moving forward. Sometimes I would be so depressed I would stare at a wall and say, why am I even here? I mean, it was horrible. So, the first time I went to a psychiatric ward, which, believe me, has a lot of stigma, I had went through a nervous breakdown right after my son's death. And I just had met Timmy. And I was a little strung out, but I didn't know that Carl had given me, like, methamphetamine. I didn't know that's what it was. He just kept giving me bumps of methamphetamine. I hadn't slept in weeks. And the doctor looked at me and said, you are really freaking tired. So that was my first trip to the psych ward. My parents were fucking pissed. Like, how dare you, lose it. Well, I see my mother all my life go into the bedroom and check out for weeks, so I was like, okay, Mom, whatever. As long as I was working at the Sea Hut and doing what they wanted, everything was good. So that kind of leads up till now. So that's kind of like what was bugging me all those years. And then, of course, deeper things that are happening now. And it's fucking scary as hell. So I'm dropping F-bombs, and that's because of my latest news. So just excuse my language. I've been in church for weeks, so my language is going into the crapper. So anyway, after Lisa's like indulging me with these stories, I began to make connections of things that I could not make connections to a long time ago. And I overdosed just for no reason. I go up there, I see every single pill, and I take it, and I'm dead 3 times, and I come back. Tim was on the truck. He dropped everything and came. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't anxious. I just kept seeing that lamb hanging over and over, and I couldn't stop it. So now you know, like, my deepest, darkest secrets, whatever. And so they say I'm crazy, they say this, and I am a little different, but I'm not crazy. So my dad had smuggled porn. It just, there was a lot of stuff, but a couple of years ago, I went into this place of forgiveness, and everybody kept saying, just forgive, just forgive. It's not that simple. You have to know the truth to forgive it. You have to understand what part you play in it. So my life completely changed. And my naturopath said the same thing. It's like, it's almost like an exit, because today's one of my better days. I had a horrible day yesterday. I couldn't even have made this video if I wanted to. But when you have complete joy and like complete serenity, and you created this life on your own, and it's your own achievement of peace, and when you look at, illness, you're like, no, not now. Or you actually can sometimes even think, oh, perfect timing, because I just made this deal with God, which was, and I remember the last time I said this is when I got sick right after. It was after that women's conference here local. Amazing night. Complete healing. And then I was going up the stairs, and I said, Lord, and I had had a great day. I have so many great days. Now, I haven't in the last 4 months, but I went up the stairs, and I said, Lord, I ask you for a lot of things, but I don't even want that anymore. I pray for my husband. You've taken me through this journey of forgiveness. But now that we're going through this now, and I see you in a totally different light, could I just love you? Because I knew if I loved God, then I don't know, I think I just caught something, but I knew if I loved God, and that's all that ever happened, I'd be okay. But just thinking about scripturally, that's not correct. It's that He so loved me. Yeah. Okay. So I went up the stairs that night and went to church, and I couldn't sit for long periods of time. I would feel this intense pressure, and I would get up and just kind of stretch my legs a little bit. I was getting uncomfortable. My back was hurting. And so it started there. One day, I talked to Tim, and he said, just go to the doctor and get some antibiotics. Like, there's something wrong with you. So I did, and she said, oh, and you've got blood and bacteria. Okay. So I took her antibiotics. I didn't want to. I talked to all my vegan friends, and they said, drink a little probiotic when you're taking it. So I did. Round 2, round 3, round 4. 5, I went to the hospital. They gave me Dilaudid, didn't even touch it. He wanted me to stay. I didn't, because Kimberly was the only one here, and she was the only one that could have taken care of my dogs, and there was nobody else here. So I was like, okay, I'll go home. The second hospital visit, they totally didn't validate what was going on. And I knew that. So I was like, well, whatever. And I didn't want narcotics. I just wanted something to kind of take the edge off. And at this time, I'm in full-blown stuff. Well, apparently during this time, because I knew it was Candida yeast, I was treating my leaky gut syndrome because I knew I wasn't going to the bathroom. I wasn't peeing right. I wasn't doing anything right. I had so many symptoms I couldn't think. Like right now I'm having a conversation. I can't do that on my bad days. I can't link thought to thought or start a project and complete it. I can't. I forget my identity almost. So Tim thought it was Alzheimer's. Of course, you know, grandma and everything. So anyway, Tim was here and he looked at me and he said, you're absolutely sick. So my son said, get a doctor. I said, okay. Like my own MD. My MD wasn't accepting me anymore. They were like, okay, we're tapped out. You can't come. So I was just sitting here slowly, I guess, dying or getting sicker. And I would push through each day. I was fighting it, which, by the way, you can't fight illness. You just have to let it, whatever. So I'm fighting it. Tim's like, don't fight it. I'm like, yeah, but I'm active every day. I'm used to sweeping, getting the garden ready, doing all these things, and I can't do them, and I feel like very inadequate and very, you know, I feel horrible. So I would get up and do something one day, and the next day I would pay the price for it. So in the backup plan, I told Tim, would you mind if I spent, you know, $1,000 to go to this doctor that I love and I trust with my life? And that way, if the MDs come empty, I'll have that backup plan. He was the one that pulled that stool specimen. Had to be done in a specific way. It was very expensive, and it goes to 9 departments. Just something in my soul said, go check in with Dr. Kelly. You know him. He has a great soul. He treats you from the inside out. And it wasn't just because I was vegan. He was like, you're going to have to eat meat. And I was like, okay, if it's going to make things stop, I'll do it. As long as it's grass-fed. So I was like, okay. Which, by the way, is really expensive. And I ate a bite of meat, and I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever eaten. Because I hadn't been eating. I lost something like 11 pounds. Then I gained 2. Then I get, and this is part of the illness, gaining, losing in a week period, which is weird. I'm in a 6-pound overweight this week. Bloated. Can't pee, can't do this, can't poop, can't, nothing. I went from complete healthy to crapland within a month and a half. So his stool specimen actually produced results. When I went into the hospital, I was having what looked like seizures. I was at my worst. And when that started, Tim was like, I'm taking you in. I went to my doctor. My doctor said, you immediately need to go to the hospital. I can see that you cannot think. I can see that you don't know who you are. I can see everything. Like, okay. Sorry, I constantly itch because it's up inside my nose. So I went into the hospital. I don't remember anything. All I remember is her hitting my bladder wall, which was horrible. Well, kind of where the bladder sits, it sits right behind the pelvic bone, which is where my pain is. Then it goes over in a square, and then it comes up, and then it hits the kidneys. Well, the pancreas is right behind that. So I go to schedule the colonoscopy. I was in the hospital for 5 days. He was weird. That guy was really weird, that doctor. And I'm setting up all these referral appointments. My internal medicine doctor's saying, yep, something wrong, we don't know. They've run every test in the world, your blood's off, this is off, that's off. But when my naturopath got those records, he said, no. You are SIG-A low, which is, that could be normal by itself. Just SIG-A. It's a cell, you know. It's a dietary gut extreme problem with white blood cells, which doesn't look good. So Tim goes to get on a truck and he wrecks. We have both had a nightmare that night, and he gets up and he wrecks. Tim never wrecks. And he hits a tire, and it rips everything out from underneath the diesel truck. So now he's lost the ability to provide for me, which was really hard for Tim. I got the results that day when he wrecked, was just a couple days ago when I sent it to Brenda. And basically, this is what he found. There's an enzyme that the pancreas makes when it is spilling over, when it can't break down nutrition, it cannot get food and give you nutrition, which would make sense on all the other stuff, because it almost seemed like I was so lethargic. I couldn't even lift my arm. You know, Tim was lifting me. He was taking me to the bathroom. He was doing all that. And for me being energetic, that's a bad thing. I'd quit smoking. So they said, start smoking again. Like my doctor, my naturopath, he's like, just like a Native American, just smoke again, because I don't want you taking those chemicals. I was like, okay, I wanted to quit. You got to quit smoking, right? So the enzyme that is created out of the pancreas when you have pancreatic cancer is a specific enzyme. The test can only tell you what stage it's in. And they go down your throat and they spill this dye on it, and it tells them if it's spread around the pancreas or where it's gone to. But my specific pain was very low to each side of the groin, straight up, and then flank pain, which they've never been able to get rid of. And so when I went to my naturopath and he had me eat meat, I was like game for anything at that point. And he's seen me at my worst. So when he pulled that stool sample, it was really weird. It's not like you just poop. It's like you have to collect it every day. You have to put it in the freezer. You have to put it in the refrigerator. It's the weirdest test ever. But I would say that everybody needs one of those. So when he got the stool specimen back, he said, Cindy, I've been praying. He's never said that to me. He goes, I wanted to see parasites. I wanted to see yeast. I know that you did have a candida problem, but you got rid of it because I can see the high caprylic acids and the high antifungals. So whatever fungal you had going on was a result of the pancreas, the SIG-A. You have leaky gut syndrome. Your bladder's not functioning correctly. Your kidneys are not functioning correctly, and it's all in their blood work. Well, that's discouraging. It's like, you guys had my blood work. You've seen me at my worst, and yet you still could not get me to move my bowel. You know Western medicine, sometimes it's horrific. But my Eastern doctor can't, prescribe a CAT scan. So all my other doctors are telling me never to use my naturopath. My naturopath's calling me going, you have low SIG-A. You have an enzyme coming out of your pancreas that detects cancer. I won't even say the word. He goes, and 3, your immune system is in a battle royale. The white blood cells are there. They're depleting. You have no good flora. You are just for lack of a better word, shit show. Well, at that point, I didn't have no money to send him the money for the medicine, but he said, I'm sending it anyway. Because I know you, Cindy, and you were my first patient. He is sending me everything that he can to support the pancreas. He can't, they acknowledge his test, but they don't, because you have to jump from the colonoscopy to the bladder doctor to the gynecology to you have to go through all those people, and then the urologist goes inside the bladder with another surgery and takes a picture, and Dr. Kelly's like, it's in the fucking pancreas. You're not getting nutrition. Your stomach can't digest. I see it all right here. It's like a 10-page diagnosis. You have low SIG-A. If it was high, I wouldn't be as worried. Your blood pressure's off. Your blood work's off. Your urine was off. There's bacteria everywhere. Why are they not detecting it? They're giving you more antibiotics. Those antibiotics are destroying what good things you have in your body to keep the mind going, to keep the digestive going, which is the core of your being. You can't defecate. Come on. You have no trace of minerals. You have silver in your blood. It's just very pancreatic cancer relevant. And he's like, if they would go and biopsy it or stick the thing down your throat or do whatever, I'm cool with that if you're cool with that. But let's talk about quality of life. Now, when Dr. Kelly says a thing like that, I know to take it serious. And that's why I cried all night last night, because it's like, okay, Lord, you brought me up to here. And I've never had such a profound experience with you of total like cleanness, of like nothing was in our path. It was just me and God and this presence that I knew was not done by me, the grace of the Lord, the grace, there's no condemnation for those in Christ. But yet, if I'm facing something of this measure, it's like, Lord, do you actually think I can bear this? I don't know if I can bear this every day. I don't know if I can. I can't even walk. Sometimes I can't think. Sometimes I forget to drink water. The simplest of things that were easy for me that I put no effort in even thinking are gone. How could this be true? But if it's my time to go, can I look at that with dignity? Because I already went through cancer before. They've taken my organs, Lord. They've done all this to me, and you know it. And I wanted to move forward. And I've been sick for over, a year, but nobody knew that. It was very private for me. So I'm making this video because you're my family, and I love you, and I don't have any family. The family I have is a daughter in Colorado who is so messed up in her head because she just had a baby and she's just a mess. She wouldn't live here. She took off with this guy. This guy's whatever. He's supposed to be a nice guy, a Christian guy. He ended up being like a weirdo. And, here's Chris with the most successful he's ever been. How can I call him and say these things? I lived for these kids, but for the first time in my life, I started living for me. Not for my dad or my mom or any of those things. I mean, if you only knew the atrocities, you would... My kids are like, you have to fight. I've been fighting all my life. I've been fighting to find out who I am. I'm fighting to be with my God, it's like I'm fighting for, and I can't fight right now because I'll tell you what, when you're sitting here and you forget who you are and you look at your husband and go, what did I just do a minute ago? That is to me a very low quality of life, but fight for my kids? That's not true. I fought for them all my life. For the first time in my life, I stopped fighting. What do you mean fight? Fight what? So now I have to jump through Western medicine hoops when my freaking naturopath knows exactly what it is. He's not stupid. The test is there. There was blood in my bowel and everything was there. I'm not saying I'm going to die. I'm just saying, where's my joy? Where's that song? So my friend said to me, just do little things every day. One thing that makes you feel great. So today I'm going to make cabbage Rejuvelac, which is an amazing probiotic. I have some berry Rejuvelac going now. It's probably the best strains of antibiotic you can get, probiotic. There was so much wrong in my internal organs. I can't even believe the doctors didn't find this or look at it or pay attention to it. I'm supposed to have chelation therapy, and then I just don't financially have the money to do it. And Tim's got to get back on the road, but he doesn't want to leave because he doesn't want to leave me this sick. but his whole career would be devastated. And I understand that the Lord can make you, He can allow you to be. It can happen that things are very comfortable. I understand that. What I don't understand is I was on the best place of my life, the best, when I had the inability to speak, and no, I wanted to look at Tim and say, I love you, and when I couldn't speak, I said, okay, Lord. Some of my symptoms are much better because of my naturopaths, not. When I lose the ability to speak, and oh God, it's like I'm in a private world. And God is so quiet. Oh, I hate when He does this. He's so quiet. Tim is frozen. He's absolutely, I'm the only person that has ever loved Tim Thomas for 29 years. I've loved him more than anything, person, and I know his pain. I know his great love, and it's me. I want to fight for Tim, but when I have those days when I fight, I pay for 2 days. So should I get up and mop the floor or just try to? Then he sees me sicker, and I don't want him to see that. I don't want Timmy to be scared. A lot of people don't see my husband's fear. He's absolutely petrified. It's not just love. Tim is my best friend in the whole world. He saved me when no one else would save me. He would show up when no one else would show up. Tim has been my unconditional, absolutely best friend of my life. And that's another thing, you know. We got married in 2004, and I was such a little shit, you know. And I finally, you know, he said again, will you marry me? Will you marry me? He had given me 3 diamond rings, and I would not marry this man. Maybe I was afraid of love. I don't know. And now I'm committed as a wife. I've actually learned to be a wife. And he said, I can't do it without you, Sid. I cannot fucking do it. I said, I know, I know, I know. He said I was supposed to go first because you're stronger than me. Oh, I feel so bad for Tim. Tim not being able to make a living is bad enough. He's absolutely the strongest, most man I've ever met in my life, and he cannot stand to see me go without anything. I live very frugally, but this is the first house I've ever committed to, too. I was definitely a gypsy. I have a gypsy soul. You know, if you don't like something, just move, you know. And I came here 12 years ago, and I miss home so much. I wish I could go to the cemetery and just sit with my son for a little bit, or my sister, and say, I'm scared right now, and I wish you were here. So, if it's pancreatic, there's a point, you know what I mean? But I want to see you, cousin. We promised to come and say hello to me if I'm in bed and I can't get up. Just sit down. We can talk about anything you want. We can talk about a sky. I don't care. And Brenda, I want you to come too. Because you've been my friends, and I know if I have decided to make that quality of life choice, which we're not there yet, but if we go in that direction, I am so fucking pulling that card, and I will not be in a hospital. I will not. My best friend is strung out. because she had her back replaced. It's like almost like we've been plagued with illness our whole life. So the moments that we have joy, we're so ecstatic. I was doing so good. I was in such a good place. Lord, please. Oh, it could be 2 years, it could be 2 months, I don't know. But whatever it is, I'm going out in my way, sitting there with friends I love, and the people I love, and say, let's laugh or cry together or whatever. That's not what Lisa had. That's not what Lane had. That's not what my son had. They didn't have any of that. And I made a promise to myself if anything ever happened to me again. But I just really thought I was going to live till 80. I kept telling Tim, we're going to live till we're 80. I'm more scared for him than myself. I don't get pain pills. I won't do it. I'd rather walk through the pain than take those pills, those horrible pills that just numb your brain and you can't even laugh or cry or anything. I'm such a sensitive person. What would I do without my emotions? So sometimes when I'm here and I'm seizuring and I have no emotions, it's the scariest thing to wake up and go, where was I? So that's the story. I'm supposed to be celebrating life right now. I'm supposed to be putting a garden in, making some other cool food, or so much I want to tell you. There's so much I want to talk about. There's so much more I can write. There's so much more in my documentary. There's so much. Can you believe that my documentary would end this way? Oh my God. The accolades. I'm going to get off here because it's going to take forever to upload. But I want you to know. I won't call my mom. She's in too much pain emotionally. So when you got sick, I was sick. And I would sneak up there to make that video, and just saying this to you, I feel better. And I love you guys. Gave me music, right? I love you.